Do you like movies and games also? Listen, so much more they all know. Vice, Pyro, Lotus, and friends. Welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 55, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I'm your host, Vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PyroJackFrost.
Oh man, the original gag back together again!
Yes.
Am I the only one excited for OG?
This is, old school.
Yeah.
But it's been a while since the original three of us had been together here, so I'm excited. I'm excited to have the old team back. But we got a lot of stuff going on here in terms of stuff that I picked up and stuff that I want to talk about outside of gaming. But I wanted to go over some cool stuff during this time. But Pyro, why don't you take it away and let us know what you've been up to?
All right, it's pretty short this time. I mean, the last few times I've been on have been after a week plus hiatus, so I've been able to build up on things to talk about. So a lot of the stuff that I did this week is similar to what I did last week. I went to round 1 again this week with some of my friends, and it's the same one that's near me in Hicksville, New York. Mm-hmm. It's relatively new. I was a little disappointed because their Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm wasn't hooked up to the internet, so I couldn't use my Nessica card to save my data, load my data, etc. I still played it, but other than that, usual fun. I really want to try to find some time in the, I don't want to even say near future, in the future to just go by myself and just spend as long as I want and do whatever I want. But my weekends are packed, like the next 5 weekends of mine are packed.
Yeah, mine too. I'm having the same issue. I would love to go there when I don't have to worry about like using up somebody else's time. Like somebody wanted to play like Gunslinger Stratos with me for like a whole day. That'd be kind of fun. Because that's basically what they do in Japan, is like they'll spend a whole afternoon together just playing one game. Like a game like that, you want to try to get better and better at it, you know?
Yeah, same with like Theater Rhythm. I honestly think that if it was connected to the internet, I would have played that most of the time I was there, just because I know that I'm gaining progress. And it kind of goes back to, I want to ask them if they can get, I forget the name of it. I don't know if either of you remember, but 2 years ago at MagFest, there was an arcade game that I was playing. It was
like a mech game, right?
Kind of. You're in a mech and you're shooting bugs.
Oh yeah.
I forget the name of it, but I loved that game.
Do not remember that.
Yeah,
you were talking about it, but I never saw you play it.
Well, I was in the arcade for 5 hours straight playing that game because I loved it so much. And then the 5th hour in, I'm like, what am I doing? I can't even save this progress.
Yeah,
what's the point of all this time? And at round 1, what's the company that brings the arcade games to round 1?
No idea.
The Japanese arcade games?
I don't know. I know. What do they use a specific distributor that you know about?
No, I forget who the people who bring those arcade games, but I even asked them if they can connect it to the internet, and they said they can't. Because if I actually had a card, because I think it's a Konami game.
They sell Nezuka, Konami, and...
Oh, no, I'm saying at MagFest.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, MagFest, I was asking if they could... That's what I'm talking about. Do you know what company brings the arcade games to MagFest?
Oh, no, I don't. I think it's a bunch of private people.
Yeah.
Well, there's one group that brings all the Japanese arcade games.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember what it was.
Oh, but anyway, I asked them at MagFest if they could connect that game to the internet, and they said that they don't have access to do that. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'm probably never going to play. Then it sucks because then last year I went and I saw people playing it, and I'm like, I want to play this again. But I've already done the first 5 hours of this game, so I'd have to play more than 5 hours to see something new.
Yeah.
And I'd be going through the same stuff that I already have. And It's a little disappointing that they can't do that. So I was kind of wondering if I should go to round one day, one day when I'm there, send them an email and say, "Hey, is it possible for you to get this game?"
Well, the thing with that,
I would come
though,
like every weekend.
Well, the thing with that though is that could be difficult to implement because round one is a franchise. So like, you'd basically be asking every round one in the country to import that game. There aren't that many of them, to be fair. But
I don't
still.
think that's necessary because not every round one has the same games.
Oh, really?
The one that we went to doesn't have Dance Dance Revolution. It just says Pump It Up.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I think because it's a franchise, same reason why, like I mentioned last weekend, you cannot use the same card at multiple locations.
Yeah.
So I think because it's a franchise, it's more you are buying the brand name, and we will give you the discounts to get these games in your store or whatever you'd want to call it. So I think I'm wondering. I mean, I might even ask anyway, even if the answer is just a flat out no. But if they did get it, I know I'd be there a lot playing that game. Yeah, it's a really fun game,
and it never hurts to ask.
Yeah. Vice, do you want to say something?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so that was round one again, and again, if my weekends weren't packed, I'd probably go again, if not next weekend, the weekend after, see if I can get more theater rhythm in. And about that, a lot of my time, again, this week has been Final Fantasy. Mm-hmm. I've been continuing 12 at home, continuing 10 on the train, continuing the cell phone game every now and then. I dropped World of Final Fantasy because it was just boring. Oh, I beat it. So I beat the main game. I managed to just get myself to beat that game. But then there's a whole nother postscript for the real ending. And I'm like, nope, not doing it. I'm done.
Good for you. I've been wondering, I've been curious about 12 because I had a strong interest in playing 12 for the last couple of years, and I kind of put it off since the announcement of the remake. What do you think of the remake?
I mean, I loved the original, and I think the remake is good. One of the good things about the 12 remake is if you press L1, you can fast forward battles.
Oh, wow.
So it makes it a lot easier to grind.
That's amazing.
And actually, I use it as like a run button, basically, because you can use it in towns to move faster. I've always wanted to play the Benny Hill music when I'm doing it, because that's kind of how it feels, is everything's just moving really fast. But the cool part is the music doesn't speed up, so you still feel like the normal game is being played, you're just doing it a little faster.
Yeah, the music speeding up would kind of take you out of it, I think.
Yeah.
I like that, and I like that, you know, they're rewarding you by they're at least bringing it into the modern world like that. That's pretty cool. It's always been a game that I've wanted to play, but just like never had the time to, or just got distracted.
When I think I mentioned this last weekend when you weren't on, but when I first saw my friend playing 12, I was like making fun of it, like a lot of Final Fantasy fans do. They're like, this game's shit. Like, what? This new game isn't as good as the old games. One of the things that really stuck out to me is every word is capitalized almost for no reason, and it kind of is silly, but then I played it and I'm like, this is actually really fun. And with the new game, it's basically the international version, so it has kind of a job system, but not really. And
aren't they called licenses in this?
A real quick explanation. In the original 12 that we got, there was a license board, but everybody had the same license board, so everyone could get everything. But then in the international version, there was the job system where each job has its own license, but you can only give each character 2 jobs. So not every character can get everything anymore. So you have to be a little bit more planning out how they
I like that better.
Do that. Yeah, and I like that too. So I do enjoy 12 a lot. And the more I play it, the more I realize this is close to one of my favorite Final Fantasies. Like the story is out there, but again, what Final Fantasy is it not?
Yeah.
I mean, I like that style of gameplay because like I like Xenoblade Chronicles, and that's basically like a spiritual successor to 12. So
I would say not entirely, but it could just be how it looks makes me feel different. Because in Xenoblade Chronicles is a lot more like the usual MMO where you're you have the buttons on the bottom of the screen and you click the buttons to do your attack, and they have a recharge time, etc. Whereas 12 is more, the character itself has a recharge time, and I guess that doesn't feel like it to me, because since I play with gambits on all the time, the characters are just acting on their own, and I just intervene if someone needs to be healed like immediately or have a status effect removed. So I guess how I play it, I don't think it's the same, but I could see some similarities to it.
Gotcha.
Well, I think I might have mentioned this before, but one of my favorite parts about Final Fantasy XII is the character and enemy and summon designs, because they are just way out there.
And actually, like I mentioned last weekend, I've noticed a lot of the monster designs from 14 came from 12, because there was some, like, their version of, not cactuars, but there's some of the monsters that I fought in 14. I wondered, like, this is a really weird monster, where did they get it from? And then I see that when I'm fighting in 12. Now, I don't know if they existed earlier than that, but it was interesting for me to see the similarities of those monsters. Because, like, 14 really is like, just how 9, one reason why I really liked 9 is because it's a love letter to all Final Fantasy before it, in a way. 14 seems to be that as well. I mean, it's an online game, so it's a little bit harder for everyone to get into, but it is a love letter to a lot of previous Final Fantasies.
Sure.
And then the last thing that I want to talk about is Vice was great enough to get me Nioh for my upcoming birthday. It was like an early gift. And I got a chance to play it for a little bit today, because I did enjoy Bloodborne. I do enjoy the Dark Souls games. And a lot of people say this is a Souls game, and it is, in the sense that there are this game's version of bonfires, or when you heal up, all the enemies come back, and the combat system is a little bit more complex than the Souls games, but still the whole idea where things like normal enemies can kill you if you're not careful.
Sure.
But it does have a lot more going for it. The different stances you can choose, the equipment has rarity values, and there's a lot more to it. But also, because of that, they can't do the whole Souls way of telling a story, where the whole story is just in the descriptions of items.
Yeah,
and a few people you talk about.
It's a lot more overt.
It's a lot. Yeah, there's one character you play as, and he's the main character of the story.
He has a name. It's not a created character.
Yeah, there's actually a story involved in it that is set. So even though that's the case, I do enjoy this, and I do want to spend more time with it. But now I'm going to be juggling, 5 games, so I have to be careful.
Well, I was happy to pick that up for you, because I thought that you didn't have it, so I was...
Yep.
And I knew that you would at least like to try it. Like, I'm not expecting you to like, the game just because I bought it for you, but hopefully it ends up being good, because I played maybe about an hour or two of it, and I enjoyed it.
In that case, I feel like the game is shit.
Well, Old Man Stompy isn't here, so,
Yeah. No, but I do enjoy it, and it was one of those games that someone else who's in the house with me, he bought Nioh, and he was asking me if I wanted to play it, and I'm like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
But since you got it, I figured I'd try it just so I could talk about it for a little bit on the podcast. And I do feel like I'm going to go to that eventually, but maybe not for until I beat 12 at least.
Gotcha. Makes sense. But
you're
usually pretty good about playing your backlog. You're a lot better than I am.
Maybe.
A lot better than I am.
Not on PC. I will say that maybe on my consoles, yes, but not on PC, definitely not. But anyway, that's been my week, and unless anyone has anything they want to ask me about those things, we can move on to Lotus.
Well, my week is largely the same as the previous one. I've been playing more Attack on Titan, but it's getting to the point where I'm nearly done with it. I believe I had mentioned that I had unlocked True Attack Mode, which is the story mode, but everything's way harder. I don't think I'm going to go through that. What that has to offer is better items when you beat a level, and you can use the better items to make better weapons, scabbards, and omnidirectional gear, but that's so you can beat even better stuff. So I would really only be doing that for the sake of completing my equipment list,
The end game grind.
Yeah, the whole thing is a grind at this point. I'm almost done with everything else, though. With Expedition Mode, where you just go out and, here, play a bunch of levels, and they get progressively harder. I've beaten all of the main stuff. I've gotten an S rank on everything, with like the secret enemy that unlocks when you complete all side missions and kill X number of Titans. I've gotten every single one of those, except for the first Expedition level's worth, because you can't unlock the ability to fight the dire Titans until you've beaten the pre-epilogue, like the regular content of the story. And by the time I'd done that, level 1 Expedition Mode, I could still get the dire subjugation targets if I want to, but I'm not going to get anything new from beating them, because they're, early game level enemies at this point. So all I really want to do now is complete requests, which when I go to attack mode, when you beat the game, you kind of end up at a sort of hub area where people might ask you, like, hey, would you mind killing 10 Titans? Or I want you to only kill fat ones, or I want you to cut off X number of limbs, or just do that kind of stuff. So I'm working on the last of those. And after that, the request will be done. The only other thing I'm going to do is I actually went ahead and bought the extra level DLC for Expedition Mode. So there's no new story mode, and there should not be any new cutscenes. I doubt it, but there'll be different Expedition levels to play, so I'll give those a shot. And they're like late game level, so they're on par with the final Expedition level. So once I beat those, I think I'll be done with Attack on Titan. And after I do that, it's going to be a real question here. Do I finally hook up my Wii U and play Hyrule Warriors? Or
another grindy game.
Oh, I know, because I'm getting into a kick. Or do I jump right over to Berserk Band of the Hawk? That's the Berserk Warriors game, basically.
So either way, it's a Warriors game. You're just deciding which one.
Yeah. I might go with Hyrule just because of order. Plus, I've been wanting to play Hyrule Warriors for a while.
They have Kamen Rider ones of those, right?
Kamen Rider has one of those,
They have Kamen Rider ones. They have Gundam ones. They have them for almost everything.
Yeah, they've got Fist of the North Star. They got one. They got
One
three
Piece.
One Piece. They got 2 Fist of the North Star, 3 One Piece. Yeah.
Dragon Quest.
Oh, that's right. They got Dragon Quest now.
There's a second one coming out too, I think.
It might even be out.
It's already out. Yeah.
Now, speaking of which, by the way, speaking of One Piece, there are a few One Piece games I would like to play. Like World Red for PS3, Burning Blood, the fighting game for PS4, and even Unlimited Adventure. How do you describe that game? I mean, that whole game is basically like finding items. Like, it's like a collectathon game. That's the word I wanted. It's a collectathon game for the Wii. I remember when
game's kind of rare now, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. It disappeared off the face of the earth for like several years. Then it popped back in a couple of GameStops when they're like different GameStops have different stock, but there's usually like a main one in an area where like it gets residual stock. So all of a sudden that one will pick up a bunch of weird stuff. Like there's a GameStop near me, like a particular one that all of a sudden got like One Piece Unlimited Adventure, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. I was like, really? Like, I don't know if I've ever seen Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn on shelves, except for when it first launched, and all of a sudden, this GameStop near me actually no longer has it now, but it had it for a little while. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah, that game's worth a lot now, too.
At this point, yeah. So, all of a sudden, that GameStop just got the weird games. So, Xenoblade Chronicles. But, yeah, so maybe I'll try a One Piece game out, but I also do kind of want to go on a Warriors kick. And regarding Hyrule Warriors, I, more recently than I should have, I'll admit, learned that, yes, the 3DS characters have finally made it into the Wii U version, so
Yep.
I don't know about the story chapters. I hope they did. If not, I'll be a little salty, but at least the characters made it in. So that was nice, because I remember hearing the 3DS version was the better version, but I'm like, but it looks like shit, and the game was designed for the Wii U, and the 3DS can't handle all that stuff at once. There's some lag in there.
I can confirm that the 3DS version doesn't play well.
Yeah,
I'm
but it
not
had
a fan of the way it looks.
Yeah, but it had like more content and everything, so it's like, that's the way to go. But I'm like, you're killing me. Like, I bought Hyrule Warriors. So now the Hyrule Warriors got the 3DS characters, so I'm quite happy about that. So all of a sudden, I have, like Linkle and Din Ferrari Nero. It's like, yes. So those will be interesting to try out, especially ones where I don't know anything about the characters themselves. So that'll just be interesting to see. And I'm a sucker for cheesy fan service and Warriors games that are not actually Warriors games. The ones that are like Zelda or Fist of the North Star or Gundam. They always
the ones with a theme that you're interested in, basically.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, not straight up Samurai or Dynasty. Like the ones that are based on other franchises always serve as a love letter to those franchises. So I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Sure.
Yeah, I always wanted to play those games, but I know that I already have enough grind when I play RPGs.
Yeah.
The Bloodborne, Souls type games, etc. So starting one of the Dynasty Warrior type games would just be hell for me, I feel.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just one grind to another. Otherwise, I don't really have much to mention, just that at the time I'm recording the Let's Play, it's not up yet. By the time it goes up, the first episode of Inside will have finally gone up on my channel. Like I said before, Inside is a short game, but it's freaking awesome. It's a spiritual successor to Limbo, and it's got a bunch of just cool stuff going for it. I mean, I've said as much before, but it's similar to Limbo, but not the same. And unlike Limbo, with Limbo...
There's color in it.
There is color in it, but with Limbo... With both games, obviously, the color, or not the color, sorry, you just mentioned colors, but with both games, the puzzles get, progressively more difficult until, with Limbo, the big, climax was, the final puzzle. And once you finally solve the puzzle, the game indicates that it is over. Whereas with Inside, there is a clear and definite actual climax to the game, and you will know it when you see it. And it's amazing. And you just kind of get to go through it yourself, which is pretty great. So I definitely look forward to getting to that point. But otherwise, this week was largely the same as last, so that's kind of all I got. So how about you, Vice?
Well, I've been gone for 2 weeks now, and so I'm back here and have some things to report back. I played more video games than I usually do. Usually I buy video games or read about them or order something, but I actually played some things extensively. One of them being Splatoon 2 came out, and I was a big fan of Splatoon 1. I actually didn't play the multiplayer really much at all, but I got everything in the one-player mode. I even got all the hidden items and all that stuff. And I had a blast playing that. I really like the one-player mode. And apparently the one-player mode in Splatoon 2 is more extensive. So I'm looking forward to that. I mean, it's supposedly supposed to train you for the multiplayer, but I found that a lot of the levels are just fun. They're the mechanics in that game are so much fun. Just sliding around when you're a squid, and then you're a kid, and then you're a squid. So, but I absolutely love that game, and I look forward to it. I might end up playing some multiplayer, but maybe just to grind to go up levels, that kind of thing. But really enjoying it. I got up to the first boss, which is really fun. He's like an octopus oven that shoots out toast. Yes,
an octopus oven that shoots out toast.
Yes.
Okay.
Why not?
And it's really funny.
Yeah. This, you might not know this answer, but you know how in the multiplayer they have the two pop stars? This time, though, it's a squid and an octopus. Do they explain why the octopus is... Because I know that there's a war between the squids and the octopi.
Yeah.
Do they explain why the two pop idols are working together?
There's probably some explanation of it in the one-player mode.
Okay.
I'm guessing. Because you meet up with one of the pop idols in that. So I think the pop idol from the first game, one of the pop idols from the first game is in that. So at any rate, I think they're pushing some kind of it might be like a world peace kind of thing coming on, or maybe there's good octopi, and there's bad octopi, that kind of thing. So looking forward to playing more of that. I love Splatoon. I think I'm really happy that Nintendo was able to make a new property last generation, and now they're continuing to capitalize on it. It's great. So I look forward to playing more of that. I'm playing more of Rise of the Tomb Raider. I played a little bit of it today. I got to some of the DLC, and I was happy to play that because there's some really cool supernatural elements going on with it. It's the Baba Yaga missions. Yeah, and there's some hallucinating going on by Lara in that. So I'm looking forward to playing more of the DLC in that. It's making the game a little bit more fun because it's so melancholy. It's in a melancholy environment, and I'm not a big fan. There's not many lighthearted moments at all in the game. They need to add a character that kind of lightens up the mood. Because Lara is a very kind of morose character in it and very intense, and there's nothing playing against her really. So I'm playing through it, and I want to beat it, but I didn't like it. I don't like it as much as the first one, just because it just feels that way. I did get a chance to watch the entirety of the season 1 of Castlevania on Netflix.
Yes. What do you think of it?
I actually really like it.
Yeah, I did too.
I like it a lot. I can understand some people criticizing it, but for me, it feels like an old OVA, like from the 80s or 90s. It very much is in the style of the old anime that I used to rent from Blockbuster. What's
a Blockbuster?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But it's not in the style of current anime or even current cartoons. It feels like old anime. So I like something like Ninja Scroll, and I actually read today that one of their big inspirations was Ninja Scroll. So I was
that's
okay,
fantastic.
So I'm not crazy. This actually was meant to feel like it.
That's great.
I
was kind of upset that what's his face wasn't in it yet. The guy, Grant.
Yeah. I like Grant a lot, but there's a lot of opportunity to have him in the second season. They're not even to Dracula's castle yet.
Yeah.
So and also you got to remember Grant used to be a monster. He's the only one out of the hero group that used to be a monster.
Actual monster?
He was cursed, and then he reverted back.
Quick question, because I've never actually played 3. I know that I guess this isn't spoiler, but the area where they found the character at the end of the 4th episode. All the mechanical stuff going on there.
Yeah.
I know the clock tower is a very common theme in the Castlevania games.
Yes.
Is that kind of where that theme is in the game too?
No.
So it's not an actual clock tower. It's okay.
So the clock tower in Castlevania 3 actually leads to Grant, and then and when you beat Grant and you meet up with and you shake hands with him after you beat him, he joins your party. You actually have to the clock tower starts falling apart, and you need to you need to leave through it the opposite way.
Gotcha.
So 3 is actually probably one of the coolest games for them to adapt, because there's also it has a cast of characters, whereas most Castlevania games you're either one character. There's a couple where you're two. Bloodlines, there are 2 different characters you could be. In Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, you could be 2 different. You are 2 different characters simultaneously. But this one, it's cool that they did this too, because they can also add the love story into it, because Silpha ends up being Trevor's wife. So
spoilers.
There's even some allusion to Silpha being an ancestor of Charlotte in Portrait of Ruin.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
So anyway, or she's from the same clan or something or other. But it's cool that they weaved in the story of Symphony of the Night too. So, you know, they have the nightmare moments from Symphony of the Night that they weaved into the story of the cartoon. I noticed that they didn't really make many references. There's not a lot of like cute winks and nods, which is actually kind of refreshing. But still, it feels still like a Castlevania product. And I also like the character of Trevor. Maybe some people don't, you know, like Old Man Stompy didn't like him, but I actually do.
I did too.
I thought it was good that they gave him a personality. They could easily make him a stoic hero, and they didn't. They made him more into a Jack Sparrow, like a slovenly, begrudging hero. But there's some really good animation in it too. I really enjoyed the fight scenes, especially with Alucard. I thought it was good. I encourage anybody to watch it because it's the same length as a movie. It's like an hour and 40 minutes to watch them all.
Yeah, I mean, they're each 20... Actually, it's less than that, because they're each 20 minutes. It's like less than an hour and a half, I would say.
There you go. So, I mean, definitely like one of those old OVAs. Those OVAs were like 80 minutes usually, so it's not all that much longer than that. And it's snappy. I didn't feel like it dragged on. Like, it was fun. It's also ultra violent, like those old animes were.
Yeah.
Has no problem with
more than I thought it would be. Because I never would think of a Castlevania game like that. Even though, yes, technically in all the games you're killing all these monsters, I would never think of it as violent. But
yeah, they always just burn up in the games.
It was surprising. I wouldn't say to turn off. I would probably wish there was a little bit less, but it wasn't overdone, and it wasn't done more than it needed to be.
Yeah, I agree. It was cool, and it also gave you a reason to sympathize with, or at least empathize with Dracula, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so, that's actually I wouldn't say it's a complaint, but it's this one strange thing I feel with that show is from the first episode you think that Dracula's the good guy, and then he becomes a total jerk like Dracula does, but you still don't see him as the villain, even throughout the whole first 4 episodes.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of like that in Bram Stoker's Dracula. If you ever read the book or watched like the movie from the 90s, it's actually pretty similar. Gary Oldman, Francis Ford Coppola Dracula, he doesn't seem all that bad. I mean, he is, but he isn't. You know, he's a tortured soul. You know, he's not just a dick because he's a dick. He actually has reasons for why he is the way he is. So it's cool that they are kind of marrying the actual character of literary Dracula with you know, the Castlevania Dracula. And you know, they did that in Symphony of the Night too, but this is just bringing more life to it. So in that, you never really saw any interaction from between Alucard's mother and Dracula. It's also pretty cool. They went out of their way to like pronounce like Tepish correctly. And things like that. There was a nice attention to detail. And getting away from that, I did want to let people up on some updates on my vinyls that I've been collecting. So Super Castlevania 4 came out, and I love that soundtrack. It's another great Konami soundtrack. Couldn't wait to get that in there. So I have 4 Castlevania vinyls now, 1 through 4.
Nice.
For Castlevanias. I hope they do Bloodlines. I think there are plans for them to do Symphony of the Night, which I absolutely will get. But Bloodlines is an excellent soundtrack. One of the best out of the entire series. That and 3 are probably my 2 favorites. So I hope they...
What do you like about them?
Bloodlines. Well, Bloodlines... first of all, I grew up on the Genesis, so it just has like that FN synthesis sound that I like. Now, I know some people complain about that, and I think they're mainly complaining about games that used it poorly. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody who says that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has bad music. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Like Streets of Rage 2 has probably one of the best soundtracks of all time. So going along with that, it also has that gothic techno soundtrack with a Genesis flair that's just so good, and it's also accompanies the levels that you're playing in that game. Like Bloodlines was the first globe-trotting Castlevania game. Like most of the Castlevania games take place around the castle or in it. This one takes place like in different countries all over the world, which is pretty neat. Okay. And there's a couple scenes in it that are particularly like nostalgic for me. Like there's this one arena that you go to fight a haunted set of armor. That is particularly terrifying. Like there's organ music playing, and you go up to this arena that seems like it's on a structure that shouldn't be able to be standing. Like basically just the stairs are holding it up, and you're walking up there, and you're like in this room that's held up by a flight of stairs. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like structurally, it's really neat. It's just a really cool, terrifying moment from when I was a kid, and like really thrilling to play that. So can't wait for that to come out if it does. And I also pre-ordered Sonic Mania, which was a surprise. Data Discs has been a great publisher of Sega soundtracks, particularly the Streets of Rage games and the Shinobi games and Outrun and
Shenmue.
Like that. Shenmue and Gunstar Heroes. But they are doing... this is the first new game that I've seen them do. So Sonic Mania isn't even out yet, but I'm all ready for it because that game looks phenomenal. Like, I can't wait to play that game. And I was able to get the special edition that has the color scheme of the original Sonic games in Japan on the Mega Drive. Like, it has, like, this kind of, like, 90s, like, white background with, like, shapes on it. Like geometric shapes, like triangles, and it just looks very 90s. It was very nostalgic, so I was happy to get that. Finally, I got 2 DVDs or Blu-rays in the mail. One of them being a Criterion release called Stalker. It's a Russian film from 1979, back during a time when we didn't get very many exports from Russia. And this is a game that actually inspired Stalker: Shadow of Chernobyl and the Metro games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've heard of it. Yeah, I heard of it.
Yeah, it's a pretty famous Russian post-apocalyptic movie. It deals, of course, with things like radiation and mutations and things like that. I'm excited to watch it because it came out the same year as the original Mad Max, so it would be cool to see the Russian perspective on the same kind of themes. I also got a kaiju movie, a giant monster movie from the masters Toho, called Frankenstein Conquers the World. So, incorrectly named, of course. It's not Frankenstein, but Frankenstein's monster, of course. But this is a gigantic Frankenstein, terrorizing Tokyo and fighting a monster called Baragon. It also has a really... apparently this is a rarity that a lot of kaiju fans really like. It's off the beaten path. It's not a Godzilla or Gamera movie. So it's off the beaten path, but people seem to really like it because of the agility and the things that you could do with Frankenstein's monster because he's not in a big rubber suit. And I can't wait to watch that. It's very hard to find streaming or anything like that. I was lucky to get it on DVD this day and age. So happy to get that. And then there's a sequel called War of the Gargantuas where they have two clones of Frankenstein's monster fighting.
So good.
Like, why would you... Like, cloning Frankenstein's monster would just produce a human. Like he's a reanimated body, like, of a real human being.
Well,
like,
not to mention, wasn't he, like...
Beings.
Well, I was going to say, he was pieced together, right? So depending what part of Frankenstein's monster you even take, you'll end up with a different human.
Yeah. It's like, if you clone the arm, you're going to come out with, like, the human that the arm came from.
That arm came from.
Like, yeah, it's so goofy and bullshit science, but I'm very happy to watch this because I want some goofy bullshit in my life. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And the DVD set that I got has the original Japanese version, so I'm very happy about that because a lot of times when you try to buy a lot of old import movies like that, like the ones from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they're all chopped to hell. A lot of them are edited, or they took parts out or edited them for TV, or the very worst, they're still dubbed. So this one you get all the versions. You have the dubbed version, the American version. It also has the Japanese version. So I'm looking very very forward to watching this and reporting back. Mm-hmm. So, having said that, we can move on to questions.
Alrighty then. So, Fabian Ruiz asks, which is the best depiction of time traveling in media, like games, movies? And I, Fabian Ruiz, played Chrono Trigger when I was young, but it always bugs me how Luca and Chrono remember Marl after a certain event that would have effectively retconned her, like things like that where like you're aware that time has changed. So in my, again, Fabian Ruiz's best opinion, the best option is Steins Gate, which is both a PC visual novel as well as an anime which was adapted from the PC. So yeah, basically what we're not looking for is, I remember seeing this movie. I don't remember the name of the Ray Bradbury story it was based on, but there was a movie that was based on a Ray Bradbury short story where you could pay like a cajillion dollars to go back in time to where a dinosaur was walking and kill it because everyone had done their homework and made sure the dinosaur was going to die at that very moment from some unrelated thing. And all you were going to do was just basically put a bullet in the body. It didn't really matter. But you had to make sure not to walk off this artificial path they set for you because you don't want to crush plants and alter the timeline, blah, 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 blah. So, of course, somebody alters the timeline. And as things are happening, you see things start to change in the present. And they're like, oh, shit, things are changing. And it's like, you shouldn't be able to perceive the change,
Yeah.
Oh, it's raining again.
The donuts. Close enough. But yeah, you should not be aware that time has changed if you change something in the past, because once you do, it'll have always been like that, right? So, what is a good example, or the best that you can think of a way of handling time travel? Because again, like even Back to the Future, that movie was really careful, but as part of the plot, Marty was aware the picture of his parents is starting to fade. Like, either the time has changed or it hasn't. I get that it's for plot drama, and the movie handled tons of time stuff really well, but little things like that make it, like, not a, quote, authentic time travel experience.
Well, the thing is, like, even if you change the slightest thing, he's not going to be born, because, like, they're not going to have sex at the right time. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, but even aside from that, like he sees the picture of his parents starting to fade, and he's like, oh no, have things changed? Like, no, it's either too late or it isn't. Like, know.
Yeah, like I was gonna say that Back to the Future is one of my favorite explanations of time travel. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
The whole creating different universes, whatever. But I think now it could just be a bad memory, but I think Butterfly Effect had one of the better.
Oh, I need to see that.
Depictions of time travel, because they time travel a decent amount, but they don't. I don't remember if they remember what happened in the other timelines, but it just like all these different timelines going on, and they're jumping between them because they're realizing that their actions are doing all sorts of things in the future that they didn't plan on happening.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, or I'm sorry. Before I go too far, were you still going to mention other stuff about the Butterfly Effect?
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I think only Ashton Kutcher remembers his character.
Yeah, I thought it was him. No, I was going to say, for me, it might be Steins Gate as well, but the thing is, Steins Gate is aware of you shouldn't be able to perceive time alterations as they're happening, so they kind of fudged it by having the main character have not a unique but a very rare ability to perceive when time has changed should he be directly involved in changing it. Like, that thing I did caused the result to happen, because otherwise there's no plot, because the whole plot of Steins Gate is they fucked up royally and they need to undo that thing. And, you know, if you couldn't perceive changes in time, then you would never know, and there'd be no show. So they took a plot hole like that Back to the Future thing, or I don't know if that's a plot hole, but they took a flaw like that in Back to the Future, and they were just like, fuck it, we'll make it part of the plot. He can tell. No one else can tell, but he can tell. Good. Here, have fun with this. So, like, I don't know if that necessarily handles it better, but they were at least able to explain away the thing that you would question. They're like, no, it's supposed to be there. So that's almost as good as you can get, probably.
I remember back in high school I watched 12 Monkeys.
Right.
And that has a
that's
current
out
TV
again
show.
now. Yeah,
there's a current TV show based on it.
Forgot about
It's a Terry Gilliam movie starring Brad Pitt and Bruce Willis. That has a very good depiction of time travel in it, but I don't really remember the plot much.
Well, the really basic idea was it's post-apocalyptic. We need you to stop that from happening.
And of course he can't, because you can't stop the past.
Yeah, but at the same time though, which is that is a very good way of handling it, by the way, because like we got here, this is where we ended up. But I will say though, like, if the funny thing is, if he did stop the apocalypse from happening, and maybe they would even take this into account, but the whole organization that sent him would therefore be retconned out of existence because they wouldn't be needed, which means that he couldn't have gone back in time, although it wouldn't necessarily...
Paradox.
So, yeah, like, it's one of those things where you could rewrite the timeline, but then Bruce Willis's memories have to be erased of the future he came from, which means he would be ignorant, but he saved the world. Or he would time paradox it where he was never sent back because he never had to be sent back, and so something else would have messed up. So, like, I mean, there's a reason... Literally every single time travel story I can think of, the main message is just don't, or fix the problem you caused, because like you're begging for it. Like, if you ever tell a time travel story, there's almost no way to avoid the time paradox problem. So like, I don't know if there's a perfect way to do it. Like again, like 12 Monkeys and Steins Gate are probably as good as it gets, because Steins Gate hand waves the flaw you would have pointed out by making it part of the plot, and 12 Monkeys is like, you can't, don't even, like, you can't, like, it's time, it happened.
In some stories, it was what you were supposed to do, because you would have gone back and did it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, with Steins Gate, I'm not going to spoil it, but regarding dealing with a problem they had, we got to undo this thing, I will say, like, I still need to play the game, but while the anime kind of fudged the look, he can just tell when time was changed rule, I will say they do a really good job of working their way out of the time paradox that I just described, where if he solved the problem, then he never would have been sent, and it would have happened, blah, blah, blah. They actually do a really good... They found a way. We are not actual time travelers, I can't test this, but as far as I can tell, they had a really good way of getting out of it that actually made sense.
Yeah. One of the I keep hearing about this underground movie that's supposed to be really good. Probably has the most realistic depiction of the way time travel would be. Mm-hmm. It's a movie called Primer, and I haven't gotten a chance to watch it, but it's supposed to be a very realistic. Like, you cannot meet yourself in the past because you just wouldn't be there. It's just one of those things. You didn't meet yourself in the past. So
Michael J. Fox would not have watched himself playing Johnny Be Good.
Yeah, because you just weren't there.
That's the thing. Yeah, he couldn't have been on stage. He's here right now, watching him where the stage is. Like, etc.
So it supposedly has the most realistic depiction of it, so therefore it's not sexy, of course, but it brings up a lot of philosophical stuff.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool in that it's an explanation of the way realistic time travel would be, from what I understand, but I haven't had a chance to watch it. Now, if we're going by like favorite depictions of time travel, I've told Lotus about this one many times, but in comic books they have time travel all the time, and it never screws anything up. Or if it does, it's very temporary, right? Or it's in service of moving the plot forward or something. But so Booster Gold is a time traveler. He's basically bored in the future because like everybody has abilities in the future, so he takes like a normal super suit and brings it into the past. Where a super suit would mean something.
Yeah.
Right.
Now it's impressive.
So like in the future it doesn't mean anything. Everybody has one, right? That kind of thing. So it was a Booster Gold series while we were in college about 10 years ago or so, where he had to go back and fix flaws in the timeline. It wasn't fix the timeline. It was like there were flaws in it. Like it was glitching out, like in reality or something like that. Like weaknesses in the timeline. And his guide through it told him to go back and try to prevent the Killing Joke from happening.
Yeah.
His guide was like, okay, I want you to stop Barbara Gordon from getting shot and crippled by the Joker. And it's kind of like a Groundhog Day situation. He keeps trying to prevent it, and like he always gets either the crap gets beat out of him, or like he messes up or something, but he can't do it. Like he keeps going like time after time after time. It's very similar to Groundhog Day, but it's there's some tragedy there. Like he's trying really hard.
Well, that's straight up the plot of Steins Gate. Like the thing they're trying to prevent keeps happening for one reason or another. It's like, how the fuck do I stop this and restore normalcy?
And he's desperate. He really wants to stop it, and he has so much anguish for not being able to stop it. And he's like being traumatized each time the Killing Joke happens, and he's getting beat up, and he's getting beat up himself because like sometimes the Joker beats the crap out of him. Like it's just and the moral of the story was that he's supposed to be going back to fix flaws in the timeline, but there are certain events in time that are supposed to happen. And no matter what he does, the universe needs those things to happen.
That's kind of like how Doctor Who explains why they never go back and try to change serious events.
Yeah.
Because I forget what Doctor Who calls them, but they're events in time that cannot be changed. They're static events.
They're so important that you cannot affect them. Like the universe hinges on them. And no matter what you do, you can't stop them from happening. It's just going to happen no matter what you do. So I really like that. That that's a convenient plot device. It's a plot limitation, right?
Yeah.
Because like why not go back and prevent a tragedy from happening? Any tragedy from happening if you have the ability to. You just don't have the ability. You can go back in time, but you can't prevent this.
Actually, I'm reminded of a similar thing, like a similar concept handled in a more comical fashion. It was at the end of Tekken, like, I forgot, like 4 or 5 or 6. It was maybe 4 or 5, like the PS2 ones or something. But it was like a joke ending where Xiao Yu wanted to go back in time and stop basically Tekken 1 from happening, because all this got started when Heihachi threw his son Kazuya off a cliff when he was like a little kid, and Kazuya has hated his father Heihachi ever since, and there's this whole rivalry with the Mishima family, and Tekken plot happens. So it's like, what if I could prevent Heihachi from throwing Kazuya off the cliff? Maybe I would just make like a better timeline for everybody. So she somehow contrives a time machine because, shut up, Tekken. And so like it's really actually pretty funny because you see Heihachi like, and now I'm gonna throw you off this cliff, and he's holding Kazuya over it, and Xiao Yu like beams in her time machine, but she like misaims herself or something and just whacks Heihachi in the back, and he's just like, whoa, oh! And he stumbles forward and accidentally drops Kazuya off the cliff, so it happens anyway. So it's one of those like, I guess I can't prevent it from happening, but it was just like, man, that was silly. Although,
that's funny.
On a more serious note, though, there was something from Steins Gate that they also handled. You mostly focus on the perspective of the character who can perceive changes in the timeline because, again, otherwise there'd be no show. But there was one character I felt so bad for because I don't know how they did it, but somebody had made what looks like a clock, but instead of telling the time like from 1 to 12 o'clock or 1 to 24 o'clock, it somehow detects what timeline you're on. So at all times it should read like 00000001, you know, but if it's ever off of the timeline, it'll have some other number. And
that's how you'll know if you're in a different timeline or not, too.
Yeah, but the thing is, it only really means anything to the main character because with each change he does or takes away, he could tell if he's getting closer or farther from his destination. But there was one part that was so rough to watch because somebody was, I forgot where, it was in a bed somewhere, maybe even a hospital, but she was like literally going insane and losing her mind because she cannot perceive time changes. So all she sees is some number that's not the right one on the clock, and she's like, every day goes by and I don't even know if we're getting closer or further or if we've stayed the same the whole time, and just like the thought of it is just like ruining my life. And the thing is, with Steins Gate, the whole show takes place over one day, done over and over and over again, so she's actually only experiencing this once, but, you know, because, like, only the main character experiences it multiple times. Everyone else kind of only experiences it once. We just see their different perception, what their different theoreticals could have been, but this person doesn't know that. She's just like, I see this number that's not 1, and I don't know what to do about this. Like, I don't even know, again, I don't even know if we've gotten better or worse. Every day I wake up and I see some number that may or may not be the same thing I saw yesterday, and it's the fucking worst. Like, that sucks, man. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't experienced too many time travel stories that weren't like obviously flawed, so I probably would just also go with Steins Gate. And 12 Monkeys was also interesting, although there was the potential paradox of running into like past selves and all that good stuff, but they handled the concept really well.
Nice. Well, having said that, I believe that's the show for this week. I want to thank you, our fan, for contributing their question. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs up, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. Lotus gets particularly depressed when, you know, he doesn't get a pat on the back every once in a
while. all of the pats.
You can also catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as Vysethebold, Vysethebold, on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, and Twitter.
And as for me, you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince, all one word. And if you are interested in seeing some of my videos early, getting in on exclusive streams, and potentially even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, then consider hitting up my Patreon at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
Very worthy cause.
And for this week, this is my outro.
Find my PyroJackFrost where refills are being found.
All right, well then we will catch you on Thursday. Thanks for listening.
Until next
Bye,
time, everyone.